Record-breaking temperatures are causing problems across much of Europe, and it's set to get even hotter over the next few days. Hot air drawn in from Africa has already seen Germany, Poland and the Czech Republic set new highs for the month of June. And this afternoon, Montcleux in France recorded a temperature of 43.5 Celsius. That's 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Much of southern France is now on red alert. Our Europe editor James Mates reports from the nearby city of Nîmes.
It has never been hotter here in the month of June. The historic city of Nîmes, much of it built by the Romans, burning under a combination of Mediterranean sun and Saharan winds. 43 degrees Celsius at midday, enough for the French government to upgrade their severe weather warning to its highest level. In the city of Lyon, all older cars have been banned to keep pollution down. Many of the city's streets and cafes deserted, the public pools that lie alongside the River Rhône so full that hundreds more families are left queuing outside, waiting and sweating until it's their turn.
Donc bon, vous savez qu'en ce moment on est dans une période de forte chaleur.
Student volunteers in Nîmes are phoning every old or housebound person in the city to check they're okay. 16 years ago, a heatwave in France killed 15,000, mostly the elderly. In Germany, the biggest threat is from forest fires, much of the firefighting effort coming from the air, with tens of thousands of gallons of water damping down parched woodlands. In northeast Spain, too, fires are raging south of Barcelona. Temperatures there are forecast to hit 45 degrees Celsius tomorrow. Even as far north as the Polish coast, another country recording its highest ever June temperatures of 38 degrees, the normally chilly waters of the Baltic are the only refuge from the heat. Back in France, yet another blast of extreme heat is raising familiar questions. The citizens and the tourists who would normally be thronging this historic city centre have all retreated somewhere cooler as the severe weather warning reaches its highest level, code red. Any individual event like this is, of course, down to the weather. But with these extreme events happening more and more often, people are increasingly asking, is what's happening here, big picture, weather or climate?
Climate is something that's measured over 3 decades or more. That's the kind of unit of climate measurement. But the kind of heat wave that we're getting here is the kind of thing that we're going to start to see more often as we go later on in this century and as the CO2 emissions continue to rise.
And increasingly, that is what European governments are having to plan and prepare for. Decades ahead, in which the record highs and lows of extreme weather have become the new normal. James Mates, ITV News, southern France.
Well, Europe is already sweltering and temperatures of over 40 degrees Celsius are coming. Just have a look at this extraordinary forecast for the next 24 hours. 45 degrees predicted for Spain, 41 for northern Italy, 41 for northern France, 45 for southern France. And this is already happening in Catalonia in Spain. Hundreds of firefighters are battling the worst fires in the region in 20 years. And if that's happening in Spain, here's the latest from Rome and James Reynolds.
Late June here in Rome is not meant to be this hot. The real heat tends to come in July or August. And so this early heat wave has taken these tourists here at the Trevi Fountain by surprise.
Absolutely fantastic to visit such a beautiful city, but a bit hotter than we expected.
Yeah, last night at the Spanish Steps it was 41.
41?
Yeah.
That's way more than you wanted.
Yes, it is exhausting when you're trying to do all the sights.
When we drove here, it was 37 at 8 o'clock in the morning, so it must be...
But you're not stopping, you're carrying on seeing the sights. That's pretty impressive.
Yes. Oh, yes, oh, yes, oh, yes.
In France, officials are warning of a risk to life. Several cities have restricted traffic and some schools have closed. Hugh Schofield's in Paris.
If you're from a place, you're going to know the best ways to stay cool and you're not going to bother coming outside. But if you're a visitor, it's a different matter. If you're a tourist and you don't venture out into this heat, then what's the point in being here?
And most tourists were taking the temperatures in their stride.
Seattle is rainy and 70s and we're in what, 98-ish, so it's hot.
It's super hard. I need a lot of water.
In France, memories are still raw of the 2003 heatwave in which thousands of old people died unnecessarily. Today there are new procedures in place to make sure that the elderly remain hydrated and cool.
Well, we've heard from Paris, Rome and Catalonia. Next, here's Rob Cameron in Prague.
What do you do when the thermometer soars in this city? Well, the priority for most Czechs is to reach the nearest available source of water. And in the case of Prague, that's the river Vltava behind me. Now, while it is baking today, it's nowhere near as hot as it was on Wednesday, when we saw record-breaking June temperatures of 38.5 degrees Celsius. That's 101.3 degrees Fahrenheit. And while those temperatures are hazardous for human health, so far there have been no reports of any fatalities, with the exception of the death by drowning of a tourist who jumped off one of the pleasure boats on the river to escape the heat.
So what's going on with these temperatures? Here's Simon King from BBC Weather.
In meteorology, when we look at the weather forecasts, we always look to see where the air is coming from. That tells us a lot about why we've got this heat at the moment across Europe. Let's look towards the Sahara. And normally at this time of year, those temperatures can get into the mid-40s. Now, the wind from Sahara is just coming northward, so it's pushing all that heat up through Iberia, up through France, and into parts of the UK. So that's why we're seeing those really high temperatures. Conversely, in Scandinavia, the wind is coming in from the Arctic. So here, temperatures below the average for the time of year, 9 to 15 degrees in parts of Norway. But over the next few days, we're going to see those temperature records tumble. The all-time temperature record in France could well go over the next few days, with a high of 45 degrees Celsius expected, even in the UK. Temperatures here up to 34 Celsius.
And if you want much more detail on the weather, you can go to the BBC Weather app, which you can download onto your smartphone.